We're trapped. We got the devil in the deep blue sea. Can we put up number? I just got to prove him, Carol, that I'm right. I got to prove to you that I'm right. Put up number 5, Carol, if you don't mind. Oh, this was from last week. Haven't changed a thing. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that first sentence, monkeys. Look at that first sentence. Yes, that was last week. Look at that. Oh, my God, all my Democrats are going to think I'm a Republican spy, Carol. They're going to think I'm the Edward Snowden of North Carolina. I had advanced secret phone taps on Apodoka-Delicious' phone lines, whoever that Senate guy is. Oh, did you see that? Wait. And later in today's show, monkeys, that was last week. Okay, let's go ahead and put up number 6. Later in today's show, monkeys, I'm going to give you a new prediction. That's how good we are. Okay, so here's the thing. We all know what happened. The GOP at the last minute, Tuesday, last minute, added, but you know, funny, Carol, how the American family, or the North Carolina family policy, whatever it is, you know, moral family values people, funny they were in this meeting. Funny, how did they find out about it? There was a Senate committee meeting in which this Sharia bill had all these anti-abortion things that we warned you about last week and 2 weeks ago. We told you it was coming. Told you it was coming. All these right-wing anti-abortion groups knew about it, and they were in the committee meeting. 3 of them at least. 3 at least. Funny how nobody else knew about it. Suddenly, they pushed this thing through. But Carol, here's the good news. You ready? They're scared of us. They're scared. They're really scared. If we knew, they gave us even a couple of days, we would have stormed the chamber. They know this is an unpopular law. They know North Carolina would not support reducing the number of abortion clinics in the whole state down to one abortion clinic in the state if this becomes law. In Asheville, 1. You know there's going to be some court challenges, Carol. Virginia, they just filed a lawsuit against the Virginia bill. Kansas, there's a lawsuit going through. North Dakota, there's a lawsuit against their bill. Ohio, there'll be lawsuits. Alabama, there's a lawsuit that just got filed against the bill. We'll see how they go. End up in the Supreme Court, probably. Question is, will the judges allow the law to go through while the court battles are being fought? We'll see. We have a conservative 5-4, is it 5-4 in Supreme in North Carolina, 4-3? I forget. Republican-dominated Supreme Court in North Carolina. We'll see. Court challenges are coming. Hasn't passed the House yet, though. Pressure, time to pressure. But here's the funniest part. So unnecessary to do it the way they did it. So unnecessary. They made us matter. All they had to do, Carol, here's all they have to do. Here's my advice to the Republicans. All they had to do, announce the bill normally, have hearings, allow everybody to speak. You totally diffuse as much of the rage as you can. You just sit there. They didn't even want to sit there, Carol. They didn't even want to sit there and listen. That's all this was. They have the votes for it. We know this. So you don't sneak it through at the last minute like Jim Black. Can we show that again back there, Carol? Can we show that? Oh, never mind. Never mind. We'll do it later. And they're saying this is the way Jim Black did it. That's their excuse. Pat McCrory, trying to appear moderate now. It ain't going to work, Pat. Sorry, Pat McCrory. Pat McCrory, Carol, came out and said it's wrong. This process was wrong. You know, it's something that should be done in the light of day through normal procedures. And the Senate people, or, you know, Apodokalicious or whatever his name is, they're saying, well, this is the way Jim Black did it. That's their excuse. It's hilarious. Meanwhile, those of us who didn't like the way Jim Black ran things back in the day were kind of wondering how long it would take. And Carol, it just took a few months. Just a few months for the Republicans to become Jim Black. Okay. Well, it was unnecessary. All they had to do was hold hearings, go through, diffuse it, allow people to talk, sure there would have been, more time for people to protest outside. That's not pleasant. But you know what? It's going to be worse now. It's going to be worse because of the way they did it. It was just stupid. You have the votes. All you have to do is respect the opposition just a little bit, and you diffuse the anger just a little bit, instead of doing it this arrogant, juvenile, childish way. Stupid. Just so stupid. You galvanized us. You infuriated us. It was just dumb. They have another plan, though, Carol. You ready for their next plan? We'll talk about this in a second. The next move, number 8, if you don't mind, please. Here's the next move. How are they going to deal with a furious half of the state? Remember, we're half of the state. Half of the state. Even when Bush and Gore were running against each other back in 2000, something like 47% of the state voted for Gore. Remember, we're half the state, right? No matter how much Rob Christensen keeps saying we're a conservative state, Democrats are always just about half. Just about half. In fact, we're registered to vote at a higher level than most Republicans, We have more registered Democrats in this state than Republicans. So what's their next move? What's the next move? Right there. I predicted this move. Here's the next move. A coordinated attack on polling places. They're going to reduce the number of polling places. They're going to reduce the hours that people can do early voting. We've already seen this. They're going to underfund county elections boards. They're going to do all these mandates, I think, or limit all send down all these limits on county elections boards in areas particularly where minority and poor voters are. Hispanic, black, whatever. That's their next move. That's the only way they can sustain this. They have to suppress the vote. So, there will be, in the next year, especially before 2014, there will be a coordinated, detailed plan on the part of Art Pope and Pat McCrory, Berger, Tillis, all of them, Appadocalicious, all of them, to limit options for voters, especially in areas and in using methods where black, Hispanic, and poor voters use to vote, and where they live. That's their plan. That's their only next move. It's the only next move. After you piss off half the state, what's your next move? Make sure they don't vote. They're going to pass that thing where felons can't vote for 5 years after completing their sentence. There's no reason for that. They're going to pass that thing where felons have to get unanimous approval from a local county election board appointed by Republicans to get their voting rights back. It's ridiculous. No other state does this. 3 people who've never met you? It's classic Jim Crow, and the Supreme Court decision invalidating the Voting Rights Act, or key provisions, the only provision that matters, the formula, is going to embolden them to do more of this. That's their next move. You heard it here first, monkeys. You heard it here first. Watch for it. Think right now, right now, right now. What am I going to do to stop the Republican attack on voting rights, which is their only next move to keep in power? What are you going to do? What am I going to do? What are we going to do? That's our next move. All right, enough of that. That is the key. You see that reflected off my bald head? That's the key. That's where they're doing exactly the same thing. It's just corruption. It's just the people in power, right? Jim Black is spinning in his grave, Carol, and he's not even dead. They think they're getting back at him, but all they're doing is just dragging the state down into the mud again and again. You know, there are a lot of us who are Democrats or independents, in my case, who did not like Jim Black one iota. In fact, Who were the main people pushing to get Jim Black prosecuted? Democrats. Oh, the Republicans forget that. It was Democratic activists that were some of the main people pushing to get Jim Black prosecuted. Now we see why. The Republicans didn't want him prosecuted because they knew someday it would be them. All right, so let's talk about these trap laws, Carol. If you go to my Twitter feed, twitter.com/TMORMAN, you'll find out what these trap laws, you'll find links to these trap laws, state-by-state analyses of trap laws. They are targeted regulation against abortion providers. Trap laws. Targeted regulation of abortion providers. Now, in North Carolina and other states, these are not things that they claim it's for women's health. But you know what? You're 14 times more likely to die during childbirth, Carol, than you are during an abortion, right? The abortion rate in the first trimester, the complication rate in the first trimester, or complications requiring any kind of hospitalization, because that's how they're couching it. That hospitals, they need to have, transfer agreements with hospitals and not be so far from hospitals. The complication rate from an abortion is, in the first trimester, when over 90% of abortions happen, is 0.3%. That means 97.7% of abortions in the first trimester have no complications that require hospitalization at all. 97. You know what? That's not even pregnancy isn't even close, right? And you're allowed to give birth in your home. Pregnancy is much more serious, much more likely to result in hospitalization complications. Hospitalizationable complications. All right, here's the key. What they're trying to do when they set up these transfer agreements to hospitals, so that only abortion clinics that have these transfer agreements, what they're not telling you is that hospitals don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. And again, if you go to my Twitter feed, you don't have to follow me. I'm not begging for followers, but I've got a couple of links. Every Wednesday, I usually I've got some good links to detailed information, state by state, what various states are doing, right? 12 states actually mandate the width of the corridors of the abortion clinics. The width of the corridors. That's the level of they're not worried about women's safety. What they're trying to do is figure out how many abortion clinics they can knock out by creating these bizarre rules. And they've done it in North Carolina. I told you 2 weeks ago. They're sitting up at night thinking, what is the minimum amount we need to do to to get rid of the most amount of abortion clinics in North Carolina. If this law passes, they will reduce the number of clinics down from 36 across the state to 1 in Asheville. All they have to do is require admitting privileges to a hospital like an ambulatory surgery center. And hospitals don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. Public hospitals, Ohio, after they passed the law, the next move in Ohio was to ban public hospitals. That would be UNC, Carroll, any hospitals, getting public money. They banned them from doing these transfer agreements with abortion clinics. And even private hospitals are then subject to enormous pressure to not do it. One wonders if Duke will continue to do it. I don't know. Will Duke continue to do it? It's rule after rule after rule, just designed to eliminate the constitutionally protected right to have an abortion in the state. And all this is going to end up in the courts, and it's unclear how it's going to end up. It's really not clear that we can win in the courts on this. It could go either way. The intent is clearly not to help women. The intent is clearly to eliminate a healthy option for women who find themselves pregnant and don't want to go to term. All right. Our number's down there if you want to talk. The next move is to start calling your Republican members of the House. Just start calling your Republican members of the House. See if we can stop it there. It's unlikely. Pat McCrory, Carol, wants to come out and be seen as a moderate. Pat McCrory has higher ambitions, just like we know Art Pope has higher ambitions. Pat McCrory doesn't want to be seen as part of this team that he's part of. So Pat McCrory, I hate to break it to you, but it's not going to work. Pat McCrory is rightfully going to be tarred with the extremists in the legislature. That's right that he should be tarred with that. He's not doing anything to stop them. He's not doing anything to slow them down. This is a perfect case. He promised on the campaign trail, right? He promised on the campaign trail, I don't want to see, and I will sign no new abortion restrictions. Now, they could override his veto, maybe. He could let it become a bill without his signature, which is probably what he's going to do. But that's not going to be enough, Pat McCrory. We want a veto. We want you, Pat McCrory, to veto this legislation. And I wonder what Mrs. McCrory thinks of this, Carol. What do you think Pat McCrory's wife thinks of this? Is she a diehard anti-abortion person? I don't know. That would be interesting to find out. Does she support a woman's right to choose? Does she think this is good law? One wonders what the pillow conversation between Pat McCrory and his wife is on this. Do they even have pillow conversation? I don't know. One wonders. So Pat McCrory needs to veto this if he wants to avoid being tarred. He can't just let it become a law without his signature. That's the wimp's way out. It doesn't work, you know. And if Pat McCrory really, really wants to keep any shred of that moderate label he tricked us with before, he needs to come out as a moderate and actually do something that a moderate would do, which would be veto this bill and say the way it was passed is wrong, but also the content of this bill is wrong. All right. So anyway, can we put up number, let's see. Oh, the hospital thing was really important. You know, they're doing things like parking lot size. You know, none of this has to do with women's health issues. It really doesn't. And the key, when they keep bringing up that doctor in Philadelphia who was doing the illegal abortions and abortions illegally and taking advantage of poor women who didn't have any options, the key is the reason those women were being forced to go to someone like him. There weren't, what? They didn't have any choice. There weren't any other options for those women who were going to that sleazebag, murderous abortion provider. He called himself a doctor who just got convicted up in Philadelphia, right? That's why they were going to him. There were no other cheap legal options available for them. And it was a huge failure on the part of the Pennsylvania authorities to even follow their own rules and apply the existing regulations. There's no need for new regulations. What there is a need for is the people and was a need for up there, they were getting reports of this guy, and they did nothing. It was a failure of the system to protect the poorest women in that environment. A failure of the system to follow the regulations already in place. Had they protected those poor women, nobody cared about poor minority women. Oh, yeah, and now that means that we have to eliminate abortion for all women in North Carolina? They're using that and twisting the example, what we should learn, the lesson from the case in Philadelphia, in order to wipe out a healthful option for all women in North Carolina. You think that one abortion clinic in North Carolina is going to be able to, that one hospital is, in Asheville is going to, a hospital near Asheville is going to provide the last abortion clinic in North Carolina with admitting privileges, a transfer agreement? You think there's not going to be pressure on that, whatever hospital that is, to close down that last abortion clinic? You don't think that pressure is going to be enormous? This is the end of abortion in North Carolina, even though we have a constitutionally protected right to abortion in the United States of America. It's an ongoing strategy. I told you a couple weeks ago, they're staying up late at nights figuring out the best way to do it. And then on top of that, which we could have fought a little, but probably not fought much, they snuck it through right before the holiday weekend. So stupid. All right. Can we talk a little bit about, yeah, and look at that. It's so true. It's so true. And they're bragging about it. right? They're bragging about it. Can we talk a little bit about Peace College, Carol? It's number 9. So Peace College has, Gouge Wrestling tomorrow. Did you guys see this in the NNO? Gouge Wrestling? Yeah, show it on the other one. Gouge Wrestling is tomorrow downtown. They set up a ring in front of Raleigh Times, and it's a regional, local. The last couple I saw were pretty street level entertainment. But I imagine they tone things down for the kids on July 4th. As part of Raleigh's Independence Day celebration. Hargett Street, 2:30 to 8:30 wrestling lineup. 7 matches, female wrestlers, luchadores, and a title match between Jimmy Jack Funk Jr. and the Great Gambino. Is that his name? Mickey Gambino. Nice guy, Mickey Gambino. That's right. Anyway, so here's what's happening with the Peace College stuff, right? Where was it? Boy, Carol, 19 firefighters died protecting homes. Homes, not people. Homes. There's a really neat article in the New York Times from 2007, 2008, in which the fire service, most of the fire service's money is going towards these wildfire teams, Carol, these wildfire prevention strategies around areas where many, many rich people, now in this case it wasn't all rich people, there were a lot of mobile homes and poor folks too, but where many, many rich people are encroaching into these wild wilderness forest areas that often have natural fires or catch on fire through stupid campers or people getting lost or lightning strikes or whatever. But more and more rich people are building homes in these areas, and then what's happening is the Forest Service is having to spend, Forest Service is having to spend tons of money to keep protect these people's homes, and people are dying. And so this article was really fascinating. It raised interesting questions about should we be risking our lives just to protect homes in wilderness areas? No, I'm not risking my life, but I think it's a fair question. Anyway, so Peace College put together a bid and outbid all these other people that wanted to own Seaboard Station, which is the little shopping center down near Peace and Wilmington Streets. And they swear, the president of Peace College swears that their intention, Carol, their intentions right now are to keep the shops open and keep it there. And they say all the right things. Well, we know that, our families and of our students want to see us involved with the town, and we want to have options there. They want to have something there, blah, blah, blah. I don't trust the president of Peace College as far as I could throw her, and that's just a fact. I don't trust the words that come out of her mouth. I think they saw something, and immediately a big hunk of land that they could own. They probably overpaid for it, but they say that it's going to be, they're going to make their money back, and they have no long-term loyalty to keeping that shopping center open as a destination for the rest of the town. I guarantee you, within 3 to 5 years, that Peace College will go back on its word. What it's saying are its intentions. That's not a promise. Our current intentions,
until it loses money,
right?
Say it's not making any money, we're going to bulldoze it and make dorms.
Carol says that until it starts losing the money, or they don't get back the money quick enough on their investment, they're going to bulldoze it and make dorms. I think that the idea that there could be a shopping center in that area that was just, that was and is successful, right? The shopping center itself had lots and lots of problems, but a lot of the stores are successful. That's what I mean. The stores themselves are doing okay, right? The restaurants and all that. And I think anybody who trusts Peace College, the president of Peace College's word, that they have no intention to do anything other than keep it as a shopping center is kind of a fool. I don't believe a word she says about it. Okay. So tonight at Marsh Woodwin's, actually starting a half hour ago, there's a neat little show. Some musicians, Chicago jazz musicians, coming down, drummer with, and he's playing with Jeb Bishop and Kerry Schul and a bunch of other local jazz musicians. That's at Marsh Woodwin's tonight. Can I just say that in the Midtown Raleigh News this week, can we show this again, Carol? Ace Towing is back in the news. There's some kind of spat between the McDonald's and the Kmart over there on Capitol and Old Wake Forest Road, right? Yeah, and so is Kmart. The owner of the Kmart property says that non-customers will be towed. But a guy who went into the Kmart and then went into the McDonald's was towed by Ace Towing. Now, just because there's a spat between the two, it's one parking lot that isn't clearly marked. Ace Towing sits there and waits for somebody to go into the McDonald's. Even if you go to the Kmart, then go back to your car, then go into the McDonald's, that seems to be what happened. Ace Towing, and Massey, I think his name is, Reuben Massey. Ace Towing is a blight on the Raleigh landscape. They're a horrible group of people. They have no sympathy. All they're interested in is the dollar, like any, what towing company has sympathy. But Ace Towing, over the years, has been particularly awful. And what's happening up there, that spat between the Kmart owners and the McDonald's owners, Ace is sitting there just waiting for somebody to make a stupid mistake. And it's not even a stupid mistake. You go to the Kmart, you leave your car, you go to the McDonald's. Ace Towing jumps, and you're out $100.
10 seconds.
Up Ace Towing, All right, we'll see you next week. Got a good show next week, and we'll be back. Take care of each other.